Oh, is this going to be a cursing podcast?
I mean, I can not curse if we don't want to curse.
Are we going to say some gosh mother curse words? Vale,
Oh,
edit those out. Beep those out.
bleep all of those, Vale. Future Vale, bleep all of those. Welcome, one and all, to World in a Jar. We are your hosts, Kyoko and Vale. Our goal is to take a word, concept, or idea and spin it into a story concept. Be it a character, NPC, group, city, you name it. And thus, those ideas we create become our world in a jar. Of course, they won't all fit in the same jar, so our selection is constantly growing every week. With many spices to choose from locations, genres, heroes, villains, and tropes we hope to give you a jar filled with fun and interesting concepts. But first, how are you doing, Vale?
Hey, you didn't read that right. The script says first, how are you doing, other host?
But you have a
Dehumanize me.
name. No, I refuse.
I'm doing good. Had a had a lot of doctor's appointments today. It's Halloween. We're dressed up for Halloween. I got my big ruffly shirt on because I'm a pirate. I forgot my tricorn. It's not really gonna fit over my headset.
Oh, valid. I'm wearing the outfit I wore to the Renaissance Festival. So I essentially look like, I don't know, like an autumn fae
Yeah, you
or
do look
something.
like a
I don't
fae.
know.
Not that I'm looking at you right now.
I'm very autumny.
Dis- Discord will not let us see each other while we're recording, but you do look very fey.
I'm very autumny right now.
Which is fitting because it's autumn. It's Halloween. It's the autumn festival.
Yeah, unlike some parts of the country where I live, we didn't get snow, so
Yeah,
it's just really cold and really windy outside.
there's still some snow outside, but even worse, there's ice right outside our door, which we should really scrape
Ooh.
off. But we don't
Yeah,
have to because the trick or treaters we've made sure they're not gonna walk up to our door. We have a zip line
Yeah.
extending from the second story balcony down to the
Oh, that's so
sidewalk.
cool.
So the kids are
Yeah.
gonna ring the bell at the sidewalk, and we're going all out for our Halloween because we hardly get many trick or treaters. We've got little goodie
Yeah.
bags, a king size candy bar, a Capri Sun, and a comic book all
Ooh.
in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
We are the kings.
Oh my gosh, I would love to like trick or treat at your guys' house.
we
Oh,
some food, good drink, and a good story. That's
oh,
what we're known
absolutely.
for here at World in a Jar.
Absolutely.
And Worlds in Jars could be all three if you really did the moral semantics in your head about it.
I mean, if you mix the food and the drink in a jar, you'd get a good story out of it.
Right? So, how do we segue into the next part? It seems like a good Vale, have
Yeah,
some
so
special effects segue this way to the next part of the show.
yeah, put like a title card or something.
And it just says
Like
title
after we do
card.
the
Very low budget.
we could always just go. So, what's the plan for today?
Yeah, the plan is to just create something random to kind of set the standard for our show. So we're gonna start off by talking about works that just generally inspire us or have inspired us historically, and maybe talk about our D&D characters or D&D campaigns that we've really liked, or things that we've stolen from other people's D&D campaigns.
Stolen, quote unquote, knock on wood.
Stolen, repurpose. We're not thieves here. We're not thieves here. We are merchants. We have bought everything from everyone.
I've only played a rogue once.
Ev-
I am a bard.
My rogues have never stolen anything. Have I?
My
Hold on.
rogue didn't steal anything either. Now that I think about it, but to be fair, he wasn't much of a rogue.
My rogue took expertise in intimidation.
Oh, that's valid. Intimidation's always so much fun.
He was one of my favorite characters. He was multi-classed in a rogue. He was mostly a Gloomstalker ranger. He was a
Ooh.
Harengon back when it was just Unearthed Arcana. Where
Yeah.
they still have it now, but he got his proficiency bonus to initiative. So I'm like, okay, how do I give him the most busted initiative possible? Gloomstalker Ranger, Alert Feat at level 4, and then I gave him one level
Oh
Rogue for
my
sneak
gosh.
attack.
Yeah.
It was for a one shot. Everyone was so
Ooh.
pissed the one time I crit initiative. He was level 6, so that was something like
Oh my
32 initiative.
gosh. Yeah. That's
And
wild.
his high initiative absolutely made sense for the character because he was paranoid. Where I should, as my Discord nickname for that character was Haranoid,
Oh my
because
gosh.
he was a rabbit folk.
The puns, they've begun, and it's only the pilot.
There's got to be at least
My
one every episode.
rogue. Oh, yeah, absolutely. My rogue had expertise in insight, investigation, and persuasion.
Yeah,
He was there to figure stuff out.
he was a lover, not a fighter.
Absolutely. He was a blaster, not a fighter.
Oh, this is about Aster,
Yeah, he's the only rogue I've ever played.
the full caster Aster Blaster.
Absolutely. All I ever used was Guiding Bolt. I mean, hey, it makes up for the fact that I've only really played bards.
Yeah. So that
I played Warlock and 4E and then bards and
bards all the way
Aster.
through, even in 4E.
Absolutely.
Aster was one of my favorite concepts to run for in my 5e game. I was running a ghost investigation one shot recently. Aster was Kyoko's character, and we were doing something a little different that one shot where Aster was the disguised form of one of the gods of the settings. There's a set of 4 elemental gods, and then there's a host of I call them esoteric gods that embody concepts rather than like elemental principles. And he was one of the esoteric gods, the god of love and song and beauty and healing, which so far every single campaign we've had a reverent of. And so
Yeah,
Kyoko was literally playing Muse as a character, and so
that was so much fun.
we modified Arcane Trickster not to take from wizard spells, but from cleric spells.
Yeah.
But he
So
did.
I was a rogue. I was an arcane trickster rogue that got guiding bolt.
We called it Divine Trickster.
Oh
he was a
yeah.
Muse is a divine trickster. That's what made it work so good.
Oh yeah. Like somebody could spin divine trickster if they wanted to play like Loki or something.
Right.
Like that'd be really cool.
It's also really
Like
funny if
Loki in any universe.
It's also really funny that all you used was guiding bolt. It would have been hilarious if you just used command at some
I should have. It was
point.
in my wheelhouse. I should have.
Command
But also,
is my favorite spell in the book. It's
command
just
is really good. I
it's
really like command.
it's just such interesting design. You could do anything with it.
Oh yeah. Command, suggestion, things like that. Just enchantment spells are so useful.
It's such a
They're
shame.
so good.
It's such a shame I made enchantment illegal in one of the places because enchantment
I
and
mean, like I've always said, that means every bard is breaking the law.
yeah.
One way or another.
But when you really think about it, like, what does it matter that you're raising a dead body? It's not like anyone's using it anyway. But like people are
Exactly.
using the bodies the minds that you're enchanting, and like that really dips into people's consent there.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit behind the law.
It's hard to argue consent against necromancy.
We don't
It's
know if
like,
they
oh,
consent.
did that skeleton consent? I don't know.
we we don't know, but it's like with nearly every enchantment spell, it's like when this spell ends, they know you enchanted them and they fucking hate you. They'll
Yeah,
don't bleep that one out.
exactly. Leave that one in.
We get one of those
we
per
get
episode with an R rating.
we get one word per
No,
episode.
bleep that one out. We only got one and I used it.
Yeah, so like I don't know, things that like inspire me. There's a lot, but I would also say not really a lot. A lot of my ideas just sort of come out of nowhere. Um like I watch some anime, I don't watch a lot. Not anymore. I watched a lot when I was a kid in high school. But like I don't know, I guess like some anime inspires me, some books that I've read inspired me. Lots of music inspires me in my creative process.
I'm down a Spotify rabbit hole of video game music, and I'll just like I will hear a video game soundtrack and not even know what the video game is about, and I'm like, this mood really fits what I've been thinking about for like this other campaign that I haven't even run yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, music is a big inspiration for me. Um, here I go. I'm starting my weekly talk about Bloodborne.
One
Blood
Bloodborne segment a week.
Blood.
Bloodborne,
Well,
Sekiro,
it's the
Tears of the
Halloween.
Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom is new. It's my new fixation, but Bloodborne, my heart and soul, it completely enraptured me when I played it. Just gave me mania and madness. And there's so many character stories that are just so interesting to me that I want to play out. Like I really enjoy a lot of different stories, especially like Ludwig, where I can't really tell if he was the good guy or the bad guy. Um,
Yeah.
where Ludwig, he was a holy warrior while he was delving the tombs of the gods. He found
Mhm.
the holy moonlight sword, which kind of spoke to him
Okay.
and gave through like motes of light. It was a very powerful weapon that kind of guided him through the beast hunts. But
Okay.
he succumbs to beasthood, but through his fight with you, he is one of there's actually two, so I'm wrong. I was wrong to almost say the only one in the game, but one of few to actually speak in his beasthood, but he regains
Mm.
his humanity. And
Oh, okay.
it's almost like because the whole game you're fighting beasts and you're almost like thinking nothing of it. You're just a hunter, and then all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
thrust into this cosmic mayhem of like this Lovecraftian undertone that you had no idea existed, but was always
Yeah.
there.
Mhm. Mhm.
As then all the players of the game were seeking to ascend humanity and like become cosmic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so Ludwig's story is almost like he ascended, but it was grotesque.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's a story I constantly revisit and think about. He's just always on my mind, and so too is his theme always on my playlists.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Chrono Trigger has inspired both of the campaigns that I say are ongoing currently. One's on hiatus. Um,
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger, I
One's on a
believe,
sort of indefinite hiatus.
yeah, indefinite hiatus because a lot of the play there's there was a whole thing there. I won't get into it, but
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger was the game I didn't know I needed in my life. I only played it a couple years ago. It's older than me. Um,
Mhm.
it was such a fun story. It had so many interesting turns, and it is the most tasteful use of time travel I've ever seen in media. Where media often tries to spin time travel in like it's futile to try and change the past because it will always
Yeah.
correct itself to the same thing every time, or like
Yeah,
you
or like
change one,
butterfly effect sort of thing.
yeah, like where you change one little thing and everything is awful, even worse than before,
Yeah.
in manifold ways. But chrono Tr-
Yeah.
chrono trigger was a way of like subtly changing the past to affect the future, um, and it implemented past and
Mhm.
future timelines in a very they implemented each timeline in a very, I wouldn't say convenient time. They perfectly placed every time period when they needed to come up in the story, and they kept you
Yeah.
blind about them before you needed to know about them, but not before you asked the question that would have been answered by them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there was also a really great Chrono Trigger moment that I think is something every DM should aspire to, which was there was a uh, there was a scene in the woods when the entire party is just talking about everything they've learned so far,
Yeah.
and it's kind of someone just brings up like, you know how they say when you're dying you get flashbacks of all the great moments in your life, all the defining moments, and everyone's like
Mhm.
yeah, and they're like, do you wonder if we're going through that, and whose memories do you think we're going through? And
Ooh.
they never overtly say it, but it's very potent when you realize that you're going through the memories of the world and the great ages of the world as it's fighting against the parasite eating it alive.
Yeah.
And man, it's such a great game.
Chrono Trigger has been like on my list of games to play. I just finding time to do it
It's
is always
not
difficult.
the longest JRPG I've ever played either. It's not that long. Final Fantasy
Yeah, I've surely.
Final Fantasy X was very inspiring to me because I loved almost all the characters.
Oh,
That
Final Fantasy in general, I totally agree.
that was a very long game for me though. I never actually saw it to completion. I just watched the cutscenes that I didn't play in game. I'm like, well, I beat it.
Yeah, like for me, Final Fantasy VII is always big. Like it's the inspiration for the next one shot I'm planning.
Oh
Sort of,
yeah,
kind of. It's kind of sort of like an inspiration for it. It's part of it.
I didn't think of I didn't think of Clavier as an eco terrorist, but I could certainly spin him that way.
Well, it's like sort of like Final Fantasy and like Les Mis, like Les Miserables are like my
Yeah,
two inspirations for my one shot,
I
my
haven't
next
seen
one shot.
I haven't seen Les Mis, but I've heard the entire soundtrack.
We should watch it for our next movie night.
We
Then,
s- we could,
cause
yeah.
cause I've seen the actual stage play, phenomenal, and I really liked the movie version of it.
The Song of
Oh,
Angry
so
Men is
good.
something Clavier would whip out of nowhere, though.
Oh, so good. um, and then like so like for Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 13 were the two that I really played.
Oh,
Um,
I don't even know anything about Final Fantasy 13.
I love 13. Um, it focuses around like basically a party of people. There's 6 of them. 7 there's like 6 or 7 of them. And they essentially all have like very similar goals, or they're forced to have a similar goal at first, essentially. And then they all have to like come together and stop the destruction of their world, basically.
Hmm.
And at the end, like some of the party members of course end up sacrificing themselves to ensure the safety of their world.
One
Like
of
it has like
oh yeah,
government overthrowing and like family protection, like really big character growth, real a character realizing that their personality has been molded and shaped by the very government and military they worked for,
yeah.
and like overcoming that. Ugh, so good.
One of
So
the
good.
one of the deep realizations I had about DMing, like for pacing a
Mhm.
story, is that you resolve all the characters' backstories before you get into like the last act. You want,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and I learned that from I learned that from another Final Fantasy. Well, I've been talking about Final Fantasy X the entire time. I also love Final Fantasy VI, but Final Fantasy X stole my heart. Um,
Oh yeah.
I watched the Unalesca cutscene again recently, and I was just watching. I'm like, man, this is just a huge character defining moment for everyone at the same time. And it's like
Oh
Orin
yeah.
Orin comes out of his shell and we see his personality finally. And
Mhm.
we see the path that he walked that he kept us sheltered from. So that way we could make this they everyone else could make this decision for themselves.
Oh
And
yeah.
he gives that speech that just gives me chills.
Oh, that's one thing I love about like party dynamics and things like that, especially in character defining moments and story defining moments, is that that's when people's like acting really comes out. And it's not even really acting, it's all just like people's ability to really like stand up, take the stage, take the spotlight to either inspire themselves or inspire others.
Hmm. And
Um, like that's a moment I've been waiting for as a player in D&D. Like, oof,
and I've been
really
waiting for a
wanted
moment where
that.
my character, like, I didn't really like Waka the best in Final Fantasy X, but I enjoyed the
Yeah.
subtlety of his moment in that scene too, where he doesn't want to do what the party's doing. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're fighting Lady Unalesca," and then Lulu's just like, "You know, you can leave, right?" And he's like,
Yeah.
he's just like, "Nah, I could never forgive myself." And
Yeah.
I'm waiting for
And
that
that's so character defining.
I'm waiting for that moment for any of my characters where it's like everyone would think it's against what my character would do, but it would be even more
Yeah.
against my character to abandon them.
It that like that whole vibe gives me the same sort of energy as one of my favorite lines from Naruto. It's like those who break the rules are trash, but those that abandon their friends are worse than trash.
Yeah.
Is literally like that's like a defining line for Kakashi in Naruto, and it carries with him his whole life, and it's so good. And it's in my opinion like that's a mentality that like lots of parties and lots of groups in stories, depending on where the story takes them, should honestly like adopt, because it's just like how far would you get on your own? How
Right.
far would you get just following the rules
Right.
in all of these like life-shattering, world-shattering situations?
Also, I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the episode, but pardon the mess behind me. I threw out all of the boxes in my closet to look for my Halloween costume, and now they're all over my bed, kind of spilling out a little bit.
I actually cleaned up my area for mine because this whole part of my desk was covered in whatever.
Since we're speaking about things worse than trash, that's what my room is right now.
It happens. It's a temporary state of being with all the
Right,
boxes out.
right.
But alright, should we move into actually getting a prompt and character building?
Yeah, let's start. I had you
Character
get
and, well, concept building, I would say.
hmm. Okay. So you will flip a coin, and heads you will get the first one, or tails I will get the first one.
Alright. Well, I'm flipping a different coin. That one, I flipped it and it landed on the top shelf of my
Oh,
closet.
not the 1 yen coin.
It's okay. I got heads.
You got heads?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a random word to inspire some kind of world we're going to put in a jar, some kind of character. Your
Alright.
your word is ectoparasitic.
Oh, interesting. Ectoparasitic. Well, that immediately makes me think of like the Aliens universe, but also like Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it kind of make me looks like or it kind of makes me think of ectoplasm and then also a parasite.
Yeah.
Let me look up what the
Yeah.
word
Like when
means.
I
It's
think like when I think of like ecto, I think of ghosts. So, like popular ghost media, Ghostbusters, horror stories, things like that. I play a lot of Phasmophobia, so ghosts like that. Um, and then Parasite. Number one thing that comes to mind when I think of parasites is either zombie movies or horror movies, horror genre like that, or I think of like Alien, cause the xenomorph is a parasite,
right.
basically.
It's funny because I haven't seen the Alien movies yet, and my uncle just an hour ago was like, today's Halloween. I'm going to try my best to show you the Alien series. And I'm like, I'm
Oh,
kind of
that's
busy.
so
I
cool.
gotta record the podcast today. You guys are gonna see him on the podcast for sure. I know it.
Oh yeah. It's like let me think. Um so yeah, definitely like setting wise, I would want to do something like like dark, almost horror related, like a horror based storyline. Maybe like solving a mystery of like a like wiped out peoples or civilization or something like that due to like you find like the players could find documentation about like a parasite or a sickness that went through, or we can do like we did recently and do like a ghost story,
Yeah, or it
things
could
like
be,
that.
or it could be. Hmm.
It could be
It could
both.
be
It could
both.
turn into both. Like sort of like my one shot, my recent one shot ended up being. It was sort of like a ghost story, but also solving the mystery as to like why this place was suddenly abandoned and full of dead bodies.
Here, here's what I'm thinking about is like Star Wars, the concept that they really didn't need in the prequels, which was the midichlorians, which was like some kind of bacteria or what. I'm not too much into Star Wars, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But they're like some kind of bacteria that people are born with that makes them
Yeah.
sensitive to the Force. And so what if it's like the opposite of that? Like they're people get infected with these parasites that make them susceptible to ghosts that would drain the life force out of their victims through these parasites.
Yeah. Or like you can think of like sort of like let's say like The Last of Us. If you think of like a parasite that like takes over a person's mind and like essentially like eats them away and things like that. Instead of like, turning them into a zombie being like, Cordyceps unilateralis, um it could be like something that slowly drives someone insane and they think they're seeing ghosts and things like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't really follow like the ecto part.
Well,
But
so an ectoparasite is just a parasite that sits outside of you, so it's like a flea or a tick.
oh,
That's
okay.
that's what ectoparasitic means. Whereas an endoparasite is like a tapeworm.
Oh yeah. Oh, that makes me think of, so there's a Doctor Who episode where this is in New Who. This is during when
I didn't even
Donna
know that was
Noble
a
is traveling with
term.
10. Yeah. So there's New Who and Old Who. So like 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all New Who. And now 14. 14's coming out next year. Um, but it's when Donna Noble is traveling with 10 and they go to a planet and then all of a sudden there's this like bug on her back and then it like completely changes the timeline and stuff like that. So it's called Turn Left, the episode, I believe. And it's like, what if Donna turned left instead of right and like didn't end up meeting the doctor and stuff like that? And because she doesn't meet the doctor and stuff like that, like he dies and the world isn't saved and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of tragedy, but it's all sort of just like an illusion or something that can be fixed by getting this like parasite that's off of, like on her back off of her. It's wild. Um but yeah, it makes me think of something like that or even like yeah, I guess just like at that point it'd be like sort of like mind control, things like that or like if they're if like a person is bitten by like something like the size of a tick or a flea, it'd be like Lyme disease. Something that like sort of like an unseen sort of thing.
Yeah. So
It's just like, oh gosh, what happened to these people?
right. So what how do these parasites work?
So I would say like probably go with like something small, um, but also something that can still be like sort of fossilized. So like how bugs were like fossilized in like amber in like prehistoric times, or you could see them like if they were burnt by like volcanic explosions or ash and things like that, they were preserved on like leaves and things like that.
Mhm.
Or pulling DNA out of like fossils and stuff like that. It would be sort of like that.
Mhm.
So like these tiny parasites, they like bite you or they like latch onto you or something. And then like over the course of like I don't know, like let's say a couple of weeks, a month, 2 months, not a super long time, they end up sort of like degrading or draining the life force of like this group of people.
Yeah. So are they like ancient and they're like dug up now, or are they, or do they like still exist? Because
I would say, um,
it seemed like you were talking about like fossils and stuff.
yeah. So I would say they were like extinct at one point, but only extinct in the fact that we couldn't find any more of them.
So
So
some
then they've
random
like sort of made a resurgence.
some random guy walks into some forest he shouldn't have and comes back and infects his whole town with this parasite.
Yeah, yeah, essentially. Like he goes out into the forest and he like messes around, like he like walks through some plants he shouldn't have walked through or something. Like when people walk through poison ivy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um or like when people just go out into the forest and they end up getting bit by a tick. Something like that. He just gets bit by this bug and he's just like, "Oh, I got a tick on me, whatever. I can get the tick off of me later." Like when I actually get back or something like that or like, "Oh, I just got like a spider bite" or something like that.
Right.
And it's so much worse than just a tick.
So where does the party come in?
I would say the party comes in either as the last dredges of these people are like dying out, or they come in after the the like city or whatever has been like wiped. Like people are like dead and decaying, or they've been dead for a long time and no one's been back since. So the party has to be like, "Oh gosh, what happened here?" And then, they could find like a hive or whatever of these bugs and have to destroy it.
Oh God,
Or
a hive of ticks. That unsettles me.
trigger warning if anyone doesn't like bugs. But yeah, something like that. So the party would have to like um not only gather the information, but also decide if they want to solve this mystery all on their own, or like take the information to like a governmental power or something like that. Some like if they don't think that they can handle it or whatever, it's like, oh, can we handle a parasite plague? Don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so it would be like balancing how much like it would be on the DM to really balance like how powerful these like creatures are, like how big they are,
Right.
or
The
like
DM would have to scale it to the party.
yeah, or it would be like the party finds like the queen, or finds like someone who is like actively utilizing these parasites as sort of like a terroristic sort of thing, and they have to
Right.
take that person down.
Oh. So someone's
Yeah.
capitalizing on these parasites as like a biological weapon.
Yeah.
We could
Yeah,
come
like someone is just like biological warfare. I'm going to use these parasites to get what I want, like threaten and get what I want from like bigger cities.
right. Yeah, I like that. Remind it vaguely reminds me. I don't remember all of The Witcher 3 anymore because it's been a long time since I played it,
It's been so long. Yeah.
but I remember there was a quest line with Kira Metz, a sorceress, where
Mhm.
you had to get some kind of arcane information about a plague, and she was going to trade
Yeah.
it with my least favorite character in the game, King Radovid, for like clemency. So
Yeah.
King Radovid is my least favorite character because he commands a racist, xenophobic empire of people that are literally going on witch hunts to kill every sorcerer, and they're gonna pivot it once they do that to kill every non-human. Um,
Yeah.
and so she was gonna go to him and try and become his court mage and like give him this big
Ooh.
secret to be granted clemency, when every
Yeah.
other reasonable person was going to say, yeah, he's going to take that from you and then he's going to burn you at the stake.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the biological warfare aspect of what she was going to give him was still there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like that would be really cool. I feel like that would fit more into a longer campaign than it would into like a one shot or like a like short campaign.
Right.
Um unless the short campaign only focused on that and tied into a larger campaign.
Mm.
Um but it would be a cool sort of like story beat or like arc in a longer
I mean,
campaign.
that's what I love about running one shots in the same setting, is that I can do multiple callbacks to different one shots in the long campaign. Like Falazure was in the very first one shot in the problem solvers one shot, and I just
Yeah.
he was just a guy in that one shot, and then in the second one shot we got to see him again and we got to see his deal, and then
Oh yeah.
his deal will return in the main campaign. It will become
Understandably, I would be
relevant.
concerned if it didn't.
All
As
right.
someone who is in that campaign, I would be very concerned if you just dropped Falazar.
I did what I needed with him. He's not gonna do anything anymore.
Just leave him over there. It's fine.
He's just reading for the rest of his life.
Oh my gosh, he's just trapped in the library.
Doesn't eat. He starves and dies.
Oh my gosh. Worst fate for Falazure.
And yet, it seems entirely plausible.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I think it's time to get into mine, and then we can go for our break, and then see if we can add another word to each of our ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my
All
word, and
right, let me.
I've had the benefit of thinking about it for a little bit, is,
Yeah.
and I don't quite know how to pronounce it, is gaseity,
Hmm.
the state of being gaseous.
Oh.
Which, sticking with the Halloween theme, makes me think of vampires and their gaseous forms.
Oh yeah, true.
So, what I haven't been thinking about is where to go with it. Um,
Vampires, Curse of Strahd. End of story.
now that you mention that, I just pulled out Curse of Strahd from my bookshelf. Not sponsored, but would love to be.
Not sponsored, but oh my gosh.
Never played Curse of Strahd. I haven't even actually opened that book very far. Read the first couple pages, though I have run some Ravenloft one shots for a convention one year for
Ooh.
RageCon in
Nice.
Reno. Um,
Ooh.
I what do I do with vampires? I don't want to go with like the normal vampires are just the stock bad guys. What's the purpose
Yeah.
of the vampires? What if the vampires are just really trying to do something really mundane?
Oh, that might be nice. Yeah.
No, okay, the vampires are the villains, but they're not like they've got people that have willingly devoted their lives to being blood banks. What the vampires are
Yeah.
doing are trying to drive the garlic farmers out of town, I think. So the gar
Take a shot at Falazure.
So I think this could be a one shot. Um, the party is hired um, by the garlic farmers because they're trying to investigate who salted the fields in the night.
Yeah. Ooh, that might be good. Yeah.
So it's like a mystery, and I don't know if the vampires are common knowledge. Should they be
Yeah.
common knowledge, or I suppose I should ask.
Um, I would say if it's a mystery of trying to figure out who salted the garlic fields, if they were common knowledge, it might make it a little too easy to
Yeah.
either guess it immediately or to stereotype the vampires.
And also, since we're going with the idea that they already have a blood bank and they're not drinking from the common
Hmm.
people don't really need to know they're vampires.
Oh yeah,
So it,
absolutely.
it probably doesn't have to be common knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, then I would say keep them hidden, yeah. Like keep
Hmm.
knowledge of their existence semi hidden.
Yeah. So what was their mistake in salting the field? What's one of the clues? And maybe they left some red herrings too.
Ooh. Huh. Let's see what. See, I'm going about this as like a person that took forensic science classes. I'm just like, oh, you dust for prints. you you spiral search the area. And I'm just like,
when
that's
you
not
when you
really
said dust for
helpful.
prints, I thought of the Animaniac scene. Dust for prints. I found them. No fingerprints. I'm not doing that.
Absolutely, though. Oh, but I would say you could either do like they left behind like you can do like footprints and things like that, and they wear like distinct shoot like footwear, things like that. Like, oh, who's gonna wear like 4-inch heels out in a muddy field,
Right.
things like that. Um, or you could do like they leave like
Oh,
pieces like cut pieces of clothing or something like that.
I'm thinking I'm thinking one of the red herrings might involve the timing of it. So like maybe
Ooh,
there's
yeah.
I'm thinking there could have been like it could be like a coastal town where there's a lighthouse and there's a guy at the lighthouse peering over
Mhm.
the close to the garlic farms, and he could have been one of the witnesses. And so
Ooh, yeah.
he's nosy. He likes to snoop on the nighttime activities going around town, right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
he gets out his binoculars, but he didn't see a thing.
Ooh, yeah.
And the reason why is because binoculars operate with mirrors.
Oh, true.
So
Yeah.
that could be a false lead right there.
Oh, yeah. I really like that. Yeah, absolutely. Like they go to like anyone who could have been an eyewitness in the area, and this guy says, "Oh, I like it was kind of weird. Like I thought I like heard stuff out there, or like I was like suspicious of like some activity in the area because there was like unrest by some people about the farming, but I didn't see anyone out there."
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'll hold this off for now. Let's take our break, and then we'll get back into this with another word for a qualifier.
Oh yeah. All right. So break time. We wanted to review something. What do you want to review today?
I so we just had one of our first movie nights in a long time, and I just watched possibly my new favorite movie of all time. And
Amazing
to
Studio Ghibli options.
yeah, so we watched Princess Mononoke, and I've been thinking about it for ever since I watched it. I just I just think all the characters were so cool in that movie.
Oh
Like
yeah, absolutely.
I loved everything they were doing. I didn't hate a single one of them. I didn't even really hate the monk, even though he was the clear bad guy.
Yeah.
And I loved
Yeah,
what they were like.
absolutely.
The spirits were so badass too, or like the gods were so badass, I should say.
Yeah.
Even like that big blind boar. I mean, he was voiced by Keith David. He
Yeah,
carried the weight of
Okoto.
a Keith David voice.
Yeah, Okoto, the boar god, was really cool. Um, and then we had Moro, the wolf god, and then of course like the forest spirit, who was also a god. They just called him the forest spirit in the English version. Um, was also like, despite the fact that I don't like the design, that's just a personal thing. He
Yeah,
creeps me out. He was so like his presence was so powerful and imposing at the same time, despite him not being a threat until the end of the movie,
right.
when
And I
he
love how
was a threat to everybody.
and I love how they foreshadowed how he would be a threat too, because every single action he performed to the others up until the climax was beneficial
Mm-hmm.
to everyone else. He was being merciful to everyone. But in the way that he was
Yeah.
carrying himself, every step he would take, the flowers would wilt around him. And so
Yeah, they would bloom and then die.
I loved the
Yeah.
foreshadowing there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The fact that like he can save life and give life and create life, but just as quickly take it.
Yeah.
Just as quickly decay life and destroy and things like that.
And I loved the blacksmithing lesbians.
Oh my gosh. Irontown is one of my favorite settings in any Ghibli movie. Like, still, they're all just, especially in the English, they're so. I mean, even in the Japanese, they're so adamant about the fact that they don't need men. And it's
Yeah.
just like they're all, like, rescued, quote unquote. They're all freed concubines and, uh, like sex workers and things like that. They're given a new purpose and they found like a whole new independence, and it just they're so snarky and cool, and they accept Ashitaka as one of their own real fast.
Yeah. I mean, who could? Who
Real
wouldn't? He
fast.
that meant he was. I mean, he showed day one. He showed them his nipples.
Oh, absolutely. Despite the fact that he literally all anime, all of the men are Ken dolls.
Right.
None of them have nipples, but he straight up day one took his shirt off in front
Right.
of them and was just like, here, let me work the bellows with you, like, let me
Right.
help out. They're literally the only man that they encountered in their community who was just like, let me help you on the same level, like, let me go to your level, whatever level it is, higher or lower, and let me work with you.
hmm
So
it was.
good.
I loved how they characterized Lady Uboshi. She was she was so strong, and she was up against a lot,
Oh
and it.
yeah.
I'm so glad they didn't characterize her as the villain, even though she was the one tearing down the forest.
Yeah, she wasn't characterized as like the overall villain. She was characterized as like an antagonist. Like that was her like character distinction was like antagonist, but she wasn't the BBEG.
Right.
She wasn't the big bad evil girl.
And I loved how she was giving out the lesser people of the other society, the emperor's society, a chance. The concubines, the lepers, even though it absolutely would have infected the entire town.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, she was giving opportunities and the chance at like a new life and to like actually find something fulfilling for yourself to people in, especially in like an ancient society, something specifically built off of like ancient Japanese societies, like giving them a voice and things like
Yeah.
that. Because especially like women women are never treated right. And when you look back at ancient societies, women are never treated properly.
Never.
Um and then like lepers in particular, because leprosy is so contagious, they're either immediately killed or sent to, especially in Japan, they're sent off to different islands for quarantine and just left there. Um so her giving them not only medical treatment, but also giving them a chance to, still work and like show that they're still human. Um, it was so good. It really made you like question whether you wanted to support her in her supporting the people or completely work against her because of what she was doing to the environment.
And I wish I could have been there when all the men of Irontown after the conflict with the boars. Like I wish
Yeah.
they would have shown the men coming back and they're like, we left this place for the women that we were kind of trashing for in the movie, and it looks pretty great. It hasn't been burned down. It hasn't been
Yeah, the only
trashed.
reason it's destroyed is because the life, like the forest spirit came and like destroyed everything.
Right. Irontown was
Like that's the
still
only
standing
reason.
because these women are just such badasses.
Yeah,
They make guns, they
absolutely.
pound steel every day, they forge with iron, and then they can shoot them
Yeah.
too. Bleep that one out.
It's like these women are working so incredibly hard. They're iron workers, they're steel workers, they're gunsmiths, they're sharpshooters, things like that. Like all of the men leave to go on the conquest for the forest spirit, and the women hold down against a siege perfectly fine.
Right. So
Like,
yeah,
oh, so good.
we're for this first World in a Jar review, we're gonna see a 5 out of 5 Ryan Reynolds review.
Absolutely. And if you're
That movie has
wondering
gotten.
why we're
Yeah,
if you're
so
wondering
we
why we're rating out of Ryan Reynolds's, it you can thank uh, Twitter
the
slash X
the
for
platform formerly
having
known
us
as Twitter.
choose. Yeah, the platform formerly known as Twitter for having us choose who to follow first and not giving us an option to search, and Ryan Reynolds was on the list.
Yeah,
So,
right. I was scrolling
congratulations,
down.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Hey, come join the podcast if you have a moment, Ryan.
Yeah,
Love to
come
hear
on,
your
Ryan.
ideas. And
Honestly,
honest,
directive
honest,
genius behind Detective Pikachu. Come on.
literary genius Ryan Reynolds. Or
Absolutely.
so yeah, let's get back into the ideas. We've got one more qualifier to go.
Yeah. All right.
You got the first one last time.
Yeah.
The first one this time kind of upsets me, especially if it goes for you. It kind of
Oh
upsets me a
no.
lot. I think you should get.
Oh
I really think you
no.
should get it.
All right, I'll take it.
So refresh me what your idea, what your world is so far.
So my world so far is there's like a parasite, like an ancient parasite that has made a resurgence that has wiped out a people's. Like, and the party has to figure out what happened to this like group of people, and then they have to take down whoever, like this person who is weaponizing the parasites and things like that. So it's like bioterrorism meets murder quote unquote mystery.
Your next word is abscessing.
Oh god. Oh. I well, I mean
It fits. It's just gross.
yeah, it fits, but it's also just like that's not a detail I would go into. Like if I were to go into that much detail as a DM for this setting, I would need to like run it by my players first in like a session 0 or something and be like, "Hey, would you be okay with things because this falls under gore at
Yeah.
this point." Be like, "Hey, would you be okay with me basically describing the bubonic plague, the symptoms of the
Right.
bubonic plague?" It's abscessing is essentially the only thing I could add would be like a symptom of the parasites, like a physical symptom, so it would be something you could observe on people. Or, I mean, like, Yeah, there's really no there's no other way that abscessing can be taken. Um, but I guess just like you could also be like they're like in like the lair or whatever, or even like around like whatever town you're in, there could be like these little pockets of the parasite that have like moved off of the people, or ones that were like born afterwards that didn't die on their hosts, that have like formed, and if you get too close to them they explode. But that's also
Yeah.
kind of that's really icky. That's also really icky.
Well, there are monsters in D&D that do that.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't make them
Makes
not icky.
it doesn't make them not icky, but it makes me think of the pod demon that like it has those abscesses on its back that explode into babies,
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's
also
like there
makes
are other
me
monsters in like media that are like that, cuz like there are some monsters. Oh gosh, what am I thinking of?
I
There
mean
are
there
some
are animal
monsters in like yeah, they're like actual animals that do that
yeah
too. Yeah, so like as gross as it is to think about it, you could either go like it's a symptom of whatever afflicted the people, and or bubbles of the parasites. Or it even
yeah
could be
so
like
so maybe
if you
that's
think about um like in Alien how like there's the xenomorph eggs. It could be something like that. Like you get too close to it, it pops, and like a larger version of the parasite, or like a different like mutated like bug hierarchy sort of thing, pops out of it, and you have to fight that as like a lesser enemy.
right. Yeah, that could have been how the parasite spreads, is that it just keeps on making babies in these abscesses and keeps popping and making more until the host dies.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, this is definitely for a
Oh.
horror. This is for a horror campaign.
Oh yeah, this is not something you'd play on like a random day in April.
It
This
also
is
kind of
something you save for like Halloween time.
hey, perfect, right? I mean, we're in costume. Not the
Yeah.
not the right costumes for horror, but we're in costumes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I think that's the end of mine, really, because it's just like, with that word, there's not much to add. So just horror campaign dealing with figuring out the cause behind the wiping out of a people, and it ends up being a parasite, and you have to figure out what happened, maybe clear the area of the infestation if you wanted to or could, and then you end up finding out that there's someone who is utilizing these parasites as a bioweapon almost. Sort of brings like Alien to Resident Evil, things like that.
And that also reminds me of another one of my favorite media, which is Dishonored.
Ooh, Dishonored's really good.
Dishon Well, my top three, I talked about two of them: Chrono Trigger, Bloodborne, Dishonored.
Yeah,
All right, so time for my last one.
absolutely.
I am also not sure how to pronounce this. I looked up online what the word means, and it doesn't give me a pronunciation. I
Oh
think it's
no, what's the word?
innubulous or innubulous. It means cloudless. So I think for the vampire mystery, being cloudless would kind of throw a wrench in the gears of the investigation, because it would be very convenient if the vampires were out and about in the city for the players to
Yeah.
investigate and interrogate. But if it's cloudless and it's sunny outside, the vampires are absolutely not going to be outside. And so the players are going to have to do some more digging to find out about these vampires, to find these
Yeah.
thralls or blood donors. Um, my question is, what leads are there to find out about the vampires other than like, oh, there's that big spooky castle up the road.
I mean, a cool way to do it would be like let's say you have like a druid or like a swashbuckler rogue, or not a swashbuckler rogue, or like a sea cleric or something like that. Someone that can use weather ward. Like that would be cool. Or
I think
someone that can do something to like control the weather.
I think this is a multi-man operation and a multi-day operation. So
Oh yeah.
I think the party would arrive on day one and everything's fine and meet these
Mhm.
NPCs, and some of them are going to be the vampires. But I think another
Yeah.
NPC that the players need to meet would be a necromancer that would have cast blight on the crops.
Ooh, yeah.
And so the necromancer would be one of the leads, like that the players would bully or fight or intimidate into telling them
Yeah.
about like the vampire castle up the street. Um, and then the
Don't you
players
see
would
that dark
go.
spooky castle at the top of the
The
road?
players are like, I don't know how I missed that.
Like, how did I miss Castlevania up there? What the heck? How did I miss the Cullen house in the random forest down the road?
You got to give your players inspiration if they say any of the classic lines from Castlevania.
Absolutely.
And then so they get to the castle and the vampires are just like, I'm sorry, man. We try not to intrude upon these guys. We just really hate garlic. And it could turn
they,
into a
they
fight.
keep
The party could
bringing us
parlay.
boxes of garlic up here.
It just smells like garlic and we hate it all the time.
We
Have
can't
you ever
go in
lived
the city.
have you ever lived near a paper mill? That's like what it is for us.
Someone's always making garlic confit down the road when I'm walking by. I literally can't go through downtown without smelling garlic bread. It'd be like a horror comedy sort of thing at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, this would definitely be a horror comedy.
It would be so funny though.
Right. And so yeah, the
Cause,
dungeon would
cause
be
you
getting
would definitely get players who would be like, but it's garlic. Like, why are you so upset? It smells so good. Like, who would get mad at garlic bread? Things like
right.
that. And then the vampires are just like, it's a medical condition.
I You talked to my doctor before you got here. You talked to my necromancer. You beat him up.
Exactly. You literally talked to my physician before this. He told you there are people in this town allergic to garlic.
And yet garlic production
That's
is on the
why.
rise.
Exactly.
They're
The
farming it
people
like
at
it's a
the farm
staple
are so
crop.
paranoid.
They're farming it like it's a staple crop.
Oh my god.
It's the, like it's gonna be the next potato. You could never make it a potato.
Garlic is not the next potato. It will never be.
That might be the episode title for this podcast. Garlic will never be the it will never be the next potato.
Bioterrorism and garlic opinions.
I don't know.
Oh
Garlic for
no.
vampires might be another form of bioterrorism.
Yeah.
Double
Yeah,
bioterrorism
honestly.
special.
Oh no. Bioterrorism for a pilot episode?
Right.
No, we just title it Bioterrorism and Garlic Bread. The two
when I'm
most
edit
important food groups.
when I'm editing, I'll find the episode title. I'll make us eat our words like we're gonna eat a garlic bread after this.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing. Unlike the vampires, I can eat garlic bread.
Right. When I was running Null Twitter, that was my favorite thing when Octavio had his vampire arc. Is he's like, I
Yeah.
mean, I can eat garlic. It's very painful, but it's still delicious like garlic. It's just like having a bad allergy. It's worse than lactose
Me,
intolerance,
because I'm
but bet.
lactose
Worse than lactose, better than deathly allergy.
Worse than lactose, better than anaphylaxis. Oh
All
my
right. Well,
gosh. I
I
think
think
that's
this
a
is
good place to leave off with them, yeah.
yeah, I think this is a good place to seal up these jars and put them to the market.
Absolutely.
All right. If you liked this show or need any ideas, you can find us on Twitter at Worlds in Jars or email us at worldinajar1@gmail.com. One the number, not one the word. Do something or hold on, before we get to that. Um
Yeah.
do you want to signal boost anything? Or
Mm,
do you have any recommendations before we go?
oh yeah, I definitely have a recommendation. If you're ever at all interested in like learning about TV tropes, learning about myths, history, things like that, I would say definitely check out, like, they don't need the signal boost, but definitely check out Overly Sarcastic Productions on YouTube because they're
Yeah,
one of
I
my
love
favorite
them.
creators. Uh, so I know I'm definitely going to be pulling inspiration and research from their TV tropes, or from their tropes videos, their trope talks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
definitely
that
check
was an
those
idea.
out if you're ever interested.
That was an idea I forgot to implement on this episode. That's probably going to go into the future episodes, which is the first word or the first random word is our prompt, and then we throw in a TV trope for the next part.
Oh yeah.
So what? Look out for that in a future episode. All right. Well, that's where we're going to leave you guys. Do something good for yourself. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, is this going to be a cursing podcast?
I mean, I can not curse if we don't want to curse.
Are we going to say some gosh darn mother flipping curse words? Vale,
Oh,
edit those out. Beep those out.
bleep all of those, Vale. Future Vale, bleep all of those.
Yeah, and I'm excited for all of the guests that we can bring on. Like my uncle wants to be a regular appearance on the show.
Oh,
'Cause
that's so
he
cool.
he 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 is he's the artist uncle who does I don't know
Mm.
if I've told you about his wasteland bears. He
Ooh.
makes some fucked up teddy bears. He finds teddy bears at like thrift stores and he fucks them up. Hold on.
Yeah,
Let me let me
that's amazing.
let me see if I can double time my camera. He made this
See,
one. He made this one. It's called
oh,
Sheriff Sam.
all I see is the squares, the spinning
Oh,
squares.
it's not gonna. You're gonna have to
Probably
see it
not.
on the episode.
That's fine.
He made
I'm
Sheriff
very
him
excited.
he made Sheriff Sam, and it was a birthday present for me.
Aw, that's
It's a
so
little
good.
cowboy western fucked up little wasteland bear. He's got this nice bandolier
Yeah.
and a cowboy hat with a little sheriff star.
Aw.
He's Wasteland
If
Bear
there's
number
anything
333.
I love, if there's anything I love, it's like fucked up teddy bears, basically. I follow this Twitter called Plushies Dreadful, which was made by American McGee, who was the game developer for like American McGee's Alice and Alice Madness Returns and stuff like that. And it's like teddy bears or plushies that represent like different illnesses, mental illnesses, things like that, disabilities, and it's really cool. It's really cool.